keep on kissing babies and hugging fat girls. King of the world! King Undertaker!
You are a sniveling little suck-up sellout full of suffering succotash, son!
It's me, Austin! Oh, son of a bitch! What? It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin! And you t-shirts are too tight too, Billy! And you book a match with me against Ryan Keelan! Look at me! I'm a total package! I will rip him apart! I'm pissed now! Where to, Stephanie?
WrestleRoasts on ad-free shows and ATC. Welcome everybody to a WrestleRoasts and the roast of Alexa Bliss. Plus, we're covering like 3 shows and a pay-per-view. A lot of stuff went down on this 21st of October 2021 edition of WrestleRoasts. Jesus Christ, it's been a crazy day. There's been the G1. There's been Crown Jewel. We haven't talked about, Rampage, SmackDown, AEW Dynamite on Saturdays. Halloween Havoc is next Tuesday. Who said October's a slow month for wrestling?
The ratings.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I live in my own little bubble. Roasts coming up. We've got Kane, Scott Steiner, Cindy Whopper.
You sounded so sad about Kane.
Well, compared to Scott Steiner and Cindy Whopper. $5 tier Patreon. Well, this Monday, you guys will be able to access in our $5 tier our Escape the Undertaker review, which Mike will be hosting. Plus, we're going to answer some fan questions. And if you're a member of regular Patreon now, you have my Crown Jewel review. I'll be asking the boys what they thought of it, but I gave like a 20-minute review of Crown Jewel. As far as the rest of the Patreon schedule, you got the roast of Nick Gage the week after The Undertaker, then World War III. Then we're going to be doing an MLW event that Robert booked. We're going to be reviewing QT Marshall's The Wrestler. Then we're off. Then the roast of Ryback. And we've got an open slot. Haven't figured out what we're doing yet. Jingle All the Way 2. Then we're
open
off.
Slot. We're roasting Sonny again.
Day 1 review and the roast of Inoki. If you're a member of the $10 tier, you got me and Robert talking Raw this week. Next week, we're talking Halloween Havoc. Again, if you're a $5 member, you're getting not just the Undertaker review, not just my Crown Jewel extravaganza review, but me and Scott are going to be reviewing the G1.
Yeah, the G1 final. Yeah.
What a wild final that was.
Crazy.
They're starting to become more and more WWE, but we'll talk about that. As far as what's
the same couple names every year?
No, just like the finish was very.
Oh, you think that's a work? It was.
I have no idea.
I think it was real.
You think?
Look, it could have been a work, but
let's talk about it.
We'll talk about it on
the.
I
rewatched it.
Did the ring explode?
Oh,
no.
buddy, we'll talk about it. I'll mention it in my low spot.
All right. Well, I'm also going to be giving my fantasy bookings for Wrestle Kingdom in case you guys give a shit. Real excited about that. How are you guys doing? I didn't even check in. Scott?
I'm well, man. I have, just in general, let's just talk about as a whole, not even just today. I feel like I'm at this point where the pandemic is over enough for me that I wrestling isn't the only thing I'm consuming. And life seems to be getting better. And then today was a day that I got to enjoy wrestling, but I didn't feel bad about it.
It just sounded like every NA share I've ever heard. And since I've stopped just watching wrestling, yeah, I want to talk about that because our buddy Roast Battle champion Mike Lawrence here just started watching The Sopranos, and I'm like, how the fuck are you able to watch wrestling and The Sopranos? You're like, what are we watching? The Beatles of TV and wrestling, and it's got to ruin.
I didn't watch wrestling.
Both of those things.
I did not watch wrestling. I've only been watching The Sopranos because, it's hard to go from Richie Aprile to Matt Sydal.
Who do you think's a better heel, Matt Sydal or Richie Aprile, Mike?
Oh, Richie Aprile, because he's earning his heat.
He's a DC villain. That's how good he is.
Yeah, he totally looks like the Punisher is going to kill him at any moment.
What kind of ruins it about Richie is when you realize he's in Shawshank and he's just one of the prisoners. And then every time I watch Shawshank, I'm like, it's that fucking Richie Aprile. He's nothing but trouble.
He's so great. He's also in Monster Squad as the pilot. The Dracula.
By the way, no better heel than Janice. What a promo.
Yeah, it was Janice and Richie take the place of but we should have a Sopranos podcast. Scott, are you a Sopranos fan?
I watched
He lives it.
Like the last 4 seasons I watched at the time. I guess I was in high school, but I went back and I guess I watched, I've watched like the Pine Barrens episode and stuff like that. But no.
Yeah, like Scott's like a skinny Anthony Jr.
Dude, so I lived like 10 minutes from where the house was, like 20 maybe outside of, whatever. Mm-hmm. So the day after the finale, me and my buddy, I guess we were seniors in high school, we drove to the house, and there was news reporters out front, and they interviewed me, and they were like, what did you think? And everybody was hating on it. And I was like, it's about family. The whole time it's been about family.
That's not what it was about.
It was dope. Like I do about wrestling. Tony was the top oos. He was the head of the table.
Woke up this morning and watched some Billy Gunn. That's the AEW. Colton Gunn is the
guys. Cast the Sopranos, but with only members of the Gun Club.
Yeah, Christopher is definitely Colton.
Christopher's probably Tony's my favorite character. Carmelo and Christopher. I mean, those are the top 3. Anyway, this is not a Sopranos appreciation post. I did do an episode of Sean Donnelly Celebrate where we talked about that. It's a cheap plug for one of my oldest, bestest comedy friends. But let's get to the.
Hey, Dan, we did one here for Something to Sports Entertainment where we talked literally for an hour about.
I want to forget about that episode because I want to forget about the Many Saints of Newark.
Here's the thing. I'm the kind of nerd where I want the disappointment that you guys have for Many Saints of Newark. So
you will if you get to the end of Sopranos. Even if you hate the ending of the Sopranos, like there's so much good shit that happens the last 8 episodes that it's worth it anyway.
Mike, it's like going from watching Endgame to watching Ben Affleck's Daredevil.
I've done that.
It's the same thing, but not really.
It actually, it'll be interesting to see your. I mean, it really is.
He will run.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe this is real, but we not only got a handicapper, but we got the best ever. How are you so good at handicapping these games? I mean, 4-0, that's quite a streak already.
Well, let's talk about every pick I've given this year in the NFL as an example. 23-8. Every pick I've given this year. 4 weeks in the bag, 23-8. There's nobody in the country that can match what I do, but I always make sure, because anybody, Conrad, could make up anything. They could tell you and blow smoke and tell you, oh, I'm the greatest. But I am independently monitored and documented, so nobody could ever question what I say and go, I don't believe it. I send every pick to an independent monitoring and documentation service that has to get the pick before the game goes off and then publishes it after the game goes off so anybody can see what I gave. But this is the best start I've ever had. I've never been this good to start a season. You don't win every week, 4 weeks in a row, everything you put out. It's been the kind of year I've had. So get on a hot streak, because when a guy's on a hot streak like me, you want to ride it. I've always had a talent for picking winners. Never quite as hot as I am right now, but I've always been very good at it. And I think it's because I do more homework than anybody else. The average guy or gal watching this podcast, they don't have time. They have a career. They have jobs. They might read the newspaper or go online and see something, but they don't have time 80 hours a week to study the games. That's what I do. And I have a crew of guys behind me, my consultants, who every week we get together 3 times a week and they throw their ideas at me. I throw my ideas at them. And then I pick the final 5 plays on Saturday and Sunday in college and pro football. So, I mean, I've got a great team behind me too, but we're all doing together hundreds of hours of homework. So you don't have to. It's all at vegaswinners.com.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to vegaswinners.com right now. Let's win some money.
Screaming back to wrestling after watching that.
Yeah, that's true. You need to watch Many Saints of Newark so you can enjoy WrestleMania this year.
Done.
All right.
Well, speaking of big pussies, hey, Alexa Bliss is, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
She does not. I don't know if she has a big pussy.
Listen to Dan defending her.
She does not have a big pussy. It's like, how
Yes.
do you know?
Well,
I've heard nothing about her vagina, but this is the bright side of Alexa Bliss, and there's a lot of bright sides. Great promo, really good heel, I think, decent face. Her mixed stuff.
Did the way he said decent face sound like he's talking about her physically?
Yeah.
No.
Definitely, Dan,
Beautiful woman.
You just sounded like a Sopranos character. She got a decent face.
I am not going down the describing a woman's body route, but very good looking lady. Seems like the mixed stuff with Braun Strowman and her got her over. I just said that. First winner of the Women's Elimination Chamber match, 3-time Raw champ, 2-time SmackDown champ, 2-time Women's Tag champ. I think the second Money in the Bank winner after Carmella. I always she's kind of like the Ryan Reynolds of wrestling in the sense that, like, she's been in a lot of shit, but I don't blame her for it. Like, like Ryan Reynolds was in a lot of really bad movies up until Deadpool, but you could always tell he was kind of charming. And I feel like the Wyatt stuff could have been way worse with a worse performer. In ring, she's passable. She's the only wrestler who actively tried to save an animal's life with Larry Steve. I don't know if you guys knew that story. Most of the times you're Jake the Snake just leaving Damien in a trunk to freeze to death in Cincinnati. But if you're Alexa Bliss, you're actually going to a couple vets. Smart, got a MA at medical dietetics from the University of Akron, and seems like a good person outside of it. I struggled with some demons, like an eating disorder, which is something I've actually struggled with. Obviously, I don't look like it, but I have. So I like that was the most vulnerable thing I've ever said casually. Yeah. So I was a fat bulimic for a little bit. I don't know why I did that like Jerry Seinfeld, but I've always really liked Alexa Bliss. I've always the Alexa character, my wife always really liked. She does not like the Lily character. But yeah, I'm an Alexa Bliss fan. Robert, what do you think of Alexa?
I think Alexa Bliss is great. She has consistently tried to improve in every area of her game when she could easily have coasted. We talked about it. I know Dan said she has a great face because he was just talking about the way she looks because she's superficial, and that's fine. She is an objectively beautiful woman that the WWE can use to put out there in mainstream world, and she could coast on that. And instead, she focused on being a better in-ring performer and a better character. She was good at her promo. She understood what her characters were. She didn't shy away from a lot of the nonsense that they threw at her. And we talked before on Something to Sports Entertainment. We talked about this back in Total F and Mark's days, that she was good enough in her delivery on a lot of this that she could be cast on any regular television show and it would be a seamless transition, that she could be on one of these
specifically said CW shows. I don't know.
No, we said
I don't know if she's ready for Sopranos yet.
No, she's not Sopranos, but if you put her on,
Arrow.
She'd be fun on Arrow. I mean, Jim Ross will put her on one of the Chicago shows since they're the only shows he knows are on television. He doesn't know how to change his remote. But she's really convincing at what she does. And she seems passionate about wrestling. Like, she could easily have jumped ship at some point in time, including after the concussion and all these injuries. She sticks with it. She was always entertaining wrestling. And this current iteration that she was doing with Lily and the playground, she made it work even if it wasn't good. She put her whole heart into it, as opposed to certain people where you just know they're kind of going through the motions and phoning it in. It's great to see someone who genuinely loves all of the entertainment aspects of wrestling.
Mike, I've really never, I know you've hated some Fiend angles, but I don't know your opinion on Alexa Bliss. I don't know if you like her, dislike her. No idea.
I think she's awesome. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing about wrestling. You first you have to pass the Mike Lawrence test of should you even be on my TV. And half of AEW does not do that. And some of
Jesus.
WWE does
let me
it.
tell
Where
you
it's like,
something.
why are
Mike,
you
Mike has
on
been
TV?
poking the Scott Chaplin AEW bear this last week. Just
Yeah.
little digs here and there, trying to get Scott to go
Crazy.
fucking slaughterhouse on him.
No, I mean, but I feel the same way about certain people in WWE, where it's like, why the fuck are you there? You're not good. You're not trying. And she's somebody who came in, you know, with no wrestling experience and has really tried, really excels. Yeah, like Robert said, seems to love what she's doing. Seems like a good person outside of it. Does Twitch and all of that. It's like I love Xavier Woods and the up down stuff, and even, you know, what Adam Cole does with it, and all those guys, where it's like, yeah, I think it's fucking smart because they saw the generation previously just try to live off wrestling and it didn't work. And so they have other avenues. The fact that, like, she's in a Bowling for Soup video, they did a song about her because she just likes the band, and it's just like a fun thing she did. That's, you know, smart for her, maybe business wise, but also just like, I like when you know what people are into. That's a, you know, it's like, I don't know one fucking thing that you know, Rick Martel likes. I know a lot about what Alexa Bliss likes.
Money.
Yeah, you know, but like you know, dressing up as Harley Quinn, all of that stuff, and I think we've all said it.
Mike
And
froze.
Oh no,
Yeah.
Lily has possessed
I'm
Mike.
sorry. I'm sorry about that. No, I was gonna say, it's like, yeah, no matter what we want to say about like the angle she does, she always fucking tries.
Yeah, I think she's like one of the, like, I think if we were a roaster 5 years from now, we'd be able to be like, oh, this angle was great and this angle was great. Like, I think she's just waiting for the really great angle to kind of land in her lap because she's an excellent performer. Scott, you've hated the Fiend.
Yes.
You've hated this Lily Alexa Bliss character. But
yes.
What do you think about Alexa Bliss?
Oh, I think she's great. I think she's one of the top women's talent in WWE, and the WWE has the top women's talent in the world for the most part. She's, you know, top 6 at least, which says a lot. I mean, the women's division is generally better than the men's division. At least for the last
she's
5
like
years.
top 3 talkers, top 6, you know, wrestlers.
Yeah, and she offers something different than the other women do. Well, I mean, that's like a big compliment on a lot of these top women, is they all do feel very different. But she feels even more different because she's not as good of a wrestler as some of them.
Yeah,
that it's like you don't put her in that who's better, Charlotte, Sasha, Becky, or like you don't even bring her up, but she's great. It's she's something other. It's kind of like how when you talked about Austin and The Rock, and then
kind of like, you know, similar to MJF almost.
Like Foley, you know.
Yeah,
she's beating the shit out of herself, or any.
Yeah, I would say MJF, you know, in a lot of ways. You know?
I think she's comparable to The Miz.
Well, I think she's a better promo than The Miz, but
like, you know, she fills that role.
No, The Miz is a great promo, I think.
I think Miz is a really good promo. I just think she's better.
Bliss is a good total package that you can put her out in the mainstream media, and I think she's a tier below the best women that they have, but she's not in that category of like, I don't want to watch a Lacey Evans or Tamina match, but if it's an Alexa Bliss match, I know it's going to still be really good. It's not going to be a 5-star Meltzer classic. It's not going to be Sasha and Charlotte, but it's still going to be a really great match. And she's gotten better over time, not worse, which is a compliment, whereas some of the women tend to regress as they get into their career.
Yeah, I understand the Charlotte Alexa feud was kind of death in a lot of ways, but the match itself was, I mean, it was produced really smart, and it was wrestled really smart. And, you know, she does wrestle like that character. Like, she completely changed her move set, which a lot of the times when somebody goes heel, they don't change their, well, I mean, when they change their character. I mean, I think Brutus the Barber Beefcake was doing the same shit as Zodiac. So it's like, you know, it's cool to see the move set change a little bit.
Yes, I would say he was doing the same shit. Sucking Hogan's dick.
Dude, I just finished Norm Macdonald's book. It's great. If you guys
hey, I did too.
Oh, it's so funny, huh?
Yeah, it's great. Awesome.
So funny. I did the book on tape. It's because you get to hear him the whole time.
Oh, I read it. I
More
high school.
you went to high school.
No, I have to read it. I got to read it over again and go, what does that mean exactly? And then I got to look up words and shit.
All right,
I like
man.
highlighting stuff.
You were leading with I've finished a book. We were all impressed. But there is this conspicuous grammar school calendar in back of you.
Oh,
literally,
yeah.
you would see in a social studies class.
Well, you called it a calendar. It's a map. Shows how much Dan knows.
Oh, sorry, maps.
Yeah, that's Russia, not January.
From to Russia in January 11th. I have no idea what I'm saying. But we said a lot of nice things about Alexa Bliss.
I wanted to say one more thing, Dan.
Yeah.
I think we always like shit on the idea of scripted promos, but we never compliment the people that are good at them. She is really good at giving scripted promos.
And we're gonna get to it because we're gonna talk about show and hell. We're gonna review the Bailey This Is Your Life segment, which is atrocious, but it's not her fault. It actually isn't her fault. And I think it would even be worse. It would be like LeVar Ball bad if it was somebody else instead of her.
It was Eva Marie.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It was Eva Marie. Think about how much worse that would have been if it was Eva Marie.
Oh yeah, no, she is the anchor of a sinking ship on that one.
All right, let's get to the roast of Alexa Bliss. You want to pick the order, Mike?
You go first, Dan.
All right. Roast of Alexa Bliss. Alexa's internet bullying must have been bad. I mean, imagine having to get off the road, give up that live show money, and spend months mentally recovering. In the same house, Ryan Cabrera is coming up with new shit. Yikes. If you haven't listened to Ryan Cabrera and enjoy music that makes the Goo Goo Dolls sound like Godsmack, then this dipshit's for you. Ryan Cabrera's most famous song is On the Way Down, inspired by the star ratings of Alexa's matches. Alexa's an adult who's really into Disney. I think the technical term is molested. Why are wrestlers so into Disney? What's the one thing that'll make me forget about what we did to Brody in the shower? A trip to the Country Bear Jamboree. Bowling for Soup. They named a band after Marty Jannetty's Christmas? Pop punk is an oxymoron. We went from the Sex Pistols calling Margaret Thatcher a cunt to why won't this boy go out with me? Alexa's a 3-time Raw champ, 2-time SmackDown champ, and 5-time reminder that WWE belts don't matter. She looks like somebody Tony Khan secretly paints portraits of. She was engaged to Buddy Murphy, but then abruptly bailed, which is the same thing you can say about Buddy's push. Her newest gimmick was what Jerry Lawler got in trouble for. Fans scream she's the Fiend. Fans scream she's killing the Fiend. Alexa Bliss or type 2 diabetes? I liked the Fiend before Alexa ruined it. You mean the time he had a Dr. Seuss mallet? That golden time of the Fiend? Lily looks like my wife after watching a Lily segment. Remember when she winked? Normally, if you're from WWE and have that much deadness in your eyes, you're Linda on the campaign trail. Been a rough year for Alexa, a lot of loss. Also, is it odd to you guys that we never saw Bray and Larry Steve in the same room? She competed in the Arnold Classic, opposed to a classic Arnold, which is coming in your maid's pussy. The most magical thing Alexa did was snap her fingers and make 80,000 New Yorkers forget Hulk Hogan said the N-word. All I'm saying is that there's a good chance Flair is under her window in a pirate outfit right now. All right, that's it for me.
All right, Scotty.
All right. Alexa Bliss. She dresses like a little girl, and Bray Wyatt looks like Honey Boo Boo. Her playground should have been the kind made out of tires because those segments were a car wreck. Alexa's playground makes me want to jump out of Allegra's window. Fucking segment. She just sit on a swing. A swing is also what Teddy Hart takes at women who look at him. Why, when a woman acts like a little girl, they give her a playground, but when a man acts like a little boy, they fire Velveteen Dream? If Becky, Charlotte, Sasha, and Bailey are the Mount Rushmore, Alexa Bliss is the Epstein Island. Her acting's been so convincing. She recently got a DM from James Ellsworth. Her character was ghost inside the guilty conscience of Brian Landry. Her gimmick was conceived when Bruce Pritchard thought, what if Blue's Clues gave you blue balls? Lily is what happens when you give a loving kiss to a cum sock. Lily is a lot like Andrade's butthole in that they've been torn up by Charlotte. I'm not saying people who like Lily skip the line, but they're definitely cutters. He went from bowling for soup to bowling for Columbine. She sometimes wears a skirt. Skirt is also the sound Nick Hogan's car made before he paralyzed his friend. Skirt. Okay, that's a stretch. If not a skirt, sometimes she'll wear overalls. And overall, the gimmick sucked. Every Alexa Bliss segment should end with Chris Hansen walking into your living room. You weren't going to do anything. Then explain this tweet. Alexa Bliss is twisted, and I'm here for it. Hashtag WWE Raw. I bet she doesn't support trans people because ignorance is bliss. Huh?
Oh, man, somebody's trying to get an Emmy.
Her birthday is on the anniversary of the U.S. dropping an atomic bomb on Nagasaki and the Tate LaBianca murders. When will the curse end? Alexa and The Fiend were a lot like the war in Afghanistan in that it should have never happened. And her old gimmick is like the Taliban in that it's making a comeback. And finally, her last name is Kaufman. So maybe she's just fucking with us.
All right. Robert.
Alexa Bliss, the most fuckable person we've roasted since Abdullah the Butcher. Alexa Bliss's Fiend character dressed in overalls, wore pigtails, and sat on a playground swing. She was like a gateway drug for pedophiles. Bliss's real name is Lexi Kaufman, which sounds like every girl I sat next to in Hebrew school. Bliss has a degree in medical dietetics, which was of great interest to the locker room until they found out she can't write scripts. Alexa Bliss was part of Triple H's WrestleMania 30 entrance. Hunter would have asked her to hold his sledgehammer, but he wasn't ready to get divorced. Bliss's first NXT character was the Tinker Bell of Wrestling, a gimmick that would eventually go to the Velveteen Dream. Alexa eventually became a cruel, twisted bully who savored the suffering of others. It was bold of her to steal Stephanie McMahon's shoot personality. She was Angelica from Rugrats if Angelica made bad career choices. Bliss won the first women's elimination chamber, which is just what it's called when you're alone with Kevin Dunn. Later, we're going to talk about Alexa Bliss's This Is Your Life Bailey segment, which was proof that there were worse things to happen to large crowds than COVID. Alexa Bliss was engaged to Buddy Murphy, but much like the creative team, she eventually lost interest in him. Alexa's wrestling influences were Trish Stratus and Rey Mysterio, though unlike Trish and Rey, she managed to avoid getting screwed by Vince McMahon. Bliss is currently engaged to Ryan Cabrera, which tells you everything you need to know about her taste in men or music. Alexa was due to compete at the first ever women's pay-per-view, Evolution, but was replaced by Alicia Fox. There is no greater indignity in wrestling than knowing you can be replaced by Alicia Fox. As fans know, Alexa had a pet pig, but sadly, Bray Wyatt was released earlier this year. Alexa was so good in her Fiend role that the WWE did fire Bray. Telling her she's taking over the Fiend role was Vince's subtle way of letting her know she needs to lose weight. That's it for me.
Nice. All right. Today we're roasting Alexa Bliss, a true inspiration to me because she gets paid lots of money to play with dolls. She was originally in gymnastics, the only sport more dangerous for a woman than pro wrestling. At 5 foot tall, at 102 pounds, Alexa Bliss is the smallest current wrestler not named Adam Cole, baby. She's what would happen if you sent a Bratz doll to the performance center. Her current persona is Luna Vachon when she forgot to take her pills. She came into the WWE with a history of having an eating disorder, as opposed to most women there who are bullied into getting one after the job. Thankfully, she was able to overcome her eating disorder so she could call Nia Jax fat on TV. As a woman, she is fine. As a wrestler, she's fine. Prior to WWE, Alexa had zero experience as a pro wrestler, and it shows. She started taking on a dark and spooky character because Bruce Pritchard is back in creative, and it's the only idea he has. A likable blonde that teamed up with a fat, scary bearded guy. Was this a wrestling angle or Dan's wedding? With her current character, she was able to take chicken shit and turn it into chicken salad while still keeping all of that original chicken shit flavoring. It's weird watching a 30-year-old come out in a schoolgirl outfit. It's like watching the mom try to play the kinky stepdaughter in a porno. She's like what would happen if you crossed the Bunny and Abaddon with consistent screen time and crowd reactions. And finally, she's a future Hall of Famer because, hey, if Molly Holly and Tori Wilson are in, why the fuck not Alexa Bliss?
Oh, Alexa Bliss. I think we were meaner to Abdullah.
Yeah. I think we were meaner to the guy who's ruined lives.
Well, we've yet to find out how much Hep C she spread around the business.
Come on. This isn't the Missy Hyatt episode. All right. Let's get to Show and Hell, the Bailey, This Is Your Life segment. I mean, this segment is atrocious. If you haven't seen it, they're trying to do The Rock and Mick Foley, This Is Your Life segment. But the big difference is The Rock and Mick Foley aren't in this. The Rock and Mick Foley were two of the biggest stars ever on TV, you know, like, and The Rock and Stone Cold especially. Like, this is my big complaint with WWE. It's like, well, Austin and The Rock, they were able to do live promos. They were able to do this. It's like, just play to people's strengths, man. Like, you don't have to, like, not the same shoe isn't going to fit for everybody. It's not Alexa's fault. There's a kid playing Bailey's ex-boyfriend who may be the worst actor I've ever seen. I mean, so bad, dude. Booed out of the building. You know, the only thing that was kind of fun was the teacher was booed, and it was kind of worth it to see the teacher get booed. But yeah, this is just a train wreck segment. It ends with Alexa getting the advantage through her kendo stick, so she doesn't lose her heat. And it's real bad, man. Well, I go get a Heineken 0-0. What did you think of this, Mike?
Yeah, this is horrible. Because it's, you know, a few things here. You know, we reviewed the original This Is Your Life segment, and that wasn't good. And, you know, and we all said, like, that was way too fucking long. and it was only like barely buoyed by the charisma of The Rock and Foley, but that's not a good segment. So you remade a bad movie. And then it's also the thing that kind of made that one work a little bit is that The Rock is in the ring, that he's reacting to everything and he's able to tell these people off, but Bailey's not even there. So it's just Alexa doing this monologue with really bad actors. And it's funny because I watched a clip of Alexa Bliss talking about this in an interview, and she was saying how she just felt bad for the actress that played Bailey's best friend, and that she was getting booed, and she was like, I was just trying to help her. And I'm like, no, everyone was getting booed. Everyone hated this segment. I remember this was one of those that I definitely wasn't, watching week to week at this time, but this was one of those everyone was like, you got to see this fucking thing. And I did. And yeah, it is really horrible. And it's also, the scripted promo thing. It's like she's stuck in this bad thing and she can't get out of it. You kind of feel for Alexa a little bit. But also, this just did nobody any favors. So this is one of the worst things we've ever watched.
Yeah, but it is. I mean, so because we watched The Rock and Foley one a few weeks ago, I feel like, or a few months
for the Rock's roast. Yeah, at the end of August.
Holy shit! It's like what 30-something minutes long, and it's
26 minutes.
Okay, 26 minutes long, and it's not good. But the thing is, these people that are coming out are being booed, like this segment. But with that segment, that The Rock is like a part of them being like he's booing them too. Whereas like Bailey's not even in this segment. She comes out at the end of it to just beat up Alexa. And so there's no one to even root for in this. All you want to do is boo a segment, and it's like fucking 12 minutes long, and Bailey shows up at the 11-minute mark?
Because Bailey's the heel. She could have stopped this at any point in time. And she hates the audience so much that, no, you're going to sit through 11 minutes of Alexa Bliss flailing around out there. And what's so egregious about this is knowing how many times this script goes through script revisions and that this still managed to escape and get on television for 13 minutes. What almost makes me wish I could have access to is there's an audio feed of what's going on in Gorilla where they're giving direction. And hearing Vince slowly lose his mind during this segment would have been so redeeming because he hates slow segments and dead segments. And this crowd was so fucking angry that they had to sit through this.
You say that, but isn't that every opening to Raw?
Yes.
Isn't that every Raw?
That's every Raw. But now Vince doesn't
I have a question.
care.
Yeah, Robert, what's like a segment that we may have thought was like kind of terrible, but Vince was backstage like just salivating over?
Oh God, there were so many. There was a really stupid thing with it was Big Show and Snitsky, and he wanted to make sure that they were like they're gonna use everything, including the kitchen sink. Ha ha! And he's like, let's find a kitchen sink. So Big Show pulls a kitchen sink out from under the ring, and the crowd fucking hated it. And Vince thought it was the funniest thing he's ever seen in the history of wrestling.
You loved it.
That's all.
Vince's
That's all you
defense, I think he's right on that one.
It is very Looney Tunesy.
It's fun, man.
I really was afraid Robert was going to say when the Undertaker beat up Chris Kanyon. So
the Benoit Memorial episode when Vince knew the truth. You're all going to regret saying this. Let's put it on TV.
Regal definitely knew the truth, right? Can we just talk about that for a sec? Regal totally fucking knew.
Oh, I think about 8 of them knew the truth.
Vince definitely didn't know. That was
I don't necessarily think Vince knew, because I think Vince again, it's like he's dead, and then it's kind of he's just rushing around. Whereas like Chavo, I mean, not to be sidetracked, but yeah, like Chavo, Regal, I think, dude, like maybe Hardcore. There was like a few guys. Oh, like one of the referees, right? Like Mike Chioda. I forget who, but
that would be
he texted a few guys, and those guys knew.
Dude, how funny of a parody sketch. I mean, we couldn't make this, but it's like that Benoit, the tribute episode. It's like 3 wrestlers talking about Benoit, and then like under one of the chyrons, you're like, this guy knew. So like the whole time, yeah. So you and Chris were really good friends. No, I wouldn't say we were good friends. I wouldn't say we were just acquaintances, really friendly.
I think that the best thing you could say about the Alexa Bliss interview is that it made us talk about the more lighthearted Benoit tribute episode.
I just wish at some point during that segment they called an audible and sent Bailey out soon. Like, we didn't need the conclusion of the story of the ex-boyfriend and the best friend falling in love. Like, somehow they got a better storyline than anybody else on Raw during that episode.
That guy. Can we talk about that guy for a second here? I mean,
she was bad too. The friend was really terrible too.
At least it wasn't a wrestler. Man. Like at least they didn't cast a wrestler in that role, like some poor developmental kid where that's the end of your career. I always felt bad for Ray Gordy. They first used him as Trish's boyfriend in some segments, and it was absolutely atrocious. And then they had to go away and bring him back with a more sophisticated gimmick with Festus as his partner.
Jesse.
It's Jesse and Festus. But yeah, so that's the worst, is if this would have been a legitimate, like, all right, we grabbed some kid from NXT and this was their opportunity.
We also I think we're looking past a really important part of this segment. The amount of times that Alexa insinuates that Bailey has sex with her dad is really weird. Like,
well, I don't know if he should have sex with the dad, but the daddy closeness, I could see that. I could see how you saw that.
It feels like that.
It doesn't rise to like beaver cleavage levels, but
it's funny. Only in wrestling can someone insult someone by saying you spend too much time with your father,
especially on a Vince McMahon show.
Yeah.
Knowing that Stephanie was your head writer.
All right, folks. Time to move on to our Tournament of Champions. And by that, I mean, I hate myself for deciding to do this. We Must Hate Ourselves World Cup. This week, kind of a real hodgepodge. It's Arachnaman versus the Anonymous GM, which took me down 2 really, really unfun wormholes, guys. They should just change Arachnaman to Hip Toss Man, because that's the only thing he could do. And he looks kind of like if Baron Samedi fucked corn, like an actual stalk of corn. The web package is a pretty good finish, though. It was Bullet Brad Armstrong. I had no idea. A funny thing about this is that they had a lawsuit that came out, and then they just dropped it immediately. Like, so there was just like, they advertised it big for like 2 shows, and then that was it. There is a better version of Arachnaman, and that is Leo Rush as Spider-Man in AAA last year. The Anonymous GM, man, if you don't know this gimmick, I mean, God bless you that you didn't have to go through this shit. But it was probably my least favorite time watching wrestling. I really do think it should be Anonymous GM Heat from now on instead of X-Bot Heat. At least X-Bot was over at times. Anyway, they had this recurring storyline where there is a laptop on Raw. There would be a message from an anonymous GM. A lot of the times it was hinted, oh, could it be Stone Cold? Could it be The Rock? Could it be Kurt Angle? Like, whoever it was. Like, people
were coming up with, is it Bret Hart? Like, the ideas of who it may be. And
well, the only thing that is funny, Scott, I will say about the anonymous GM is that this is what replaced Bret Hart as GM. So I just think it's really funny they replaced Bret Hart with a computer.
It was more human than him.
The anonymous GM was just Bret when he woke up with the concussion.
But anyway, man, the one thing I will say is it did, like, I guess it kept you guessing until we find out it was indeed Hornswoggle, the son of Vince McMahon in kayfabe storyline. I guess WWE believes that, like, old folk tales, strange happenings are the results of gnomes in the forest.
Dude, I don't even remember this being Hornswoggle. I feel like they just fucking dropped it. It was Hornswoggle.
No, they revealed it was Hornswoggle eventually.
Yeah. So bad. Wasn't he Vince's kid too?
Yeah.
He was, and then he wasn't. It was
a punchline of
we don't know how to end a story. What if it's Hornswoggle?
Yeah. That's great shit.
It's
That would have been
Goddamn
great.
midget running around fucking up the show.
That really should have been Eric Rowan Spider.
it should have been Hornswoggle in a spider costume.
Anyway, my
Arachnoid
vote
boy.
for this, I think that I do think that Anonymous GM is the worst gimmick. I mean, I just said Leo Rush was really great, the Spider-Man gimmick at AAA, so that automatically kind of disqualifies Arachnoman. Yeah, it's just the amount of time this fucking thing took up. I mean, this was at least a year, right?
Dude, and it was again, it created genuine interest and it affected every episode of Raw. This thing was making decisions. Is it fucking with people? Is it doing favors for someone? Like it was so entwined in every goddamn storyline, and then they gave you nothing. It's the worst gimmick of all time.
Wow, strong words.
And Arachnoman, dude, come on, dude, that's fun. I like when a guy's just like, you know, a knockoff of a superhero.
I like his finisher, you know, the little small package spidery thing.
Yeah.
As a resident Spider-Man fan, although Robert, you're a pretty big Marvel fan as well. Mike, which gimmick is worse?
I mean, yeah, it's I feel like this is going to be a sweep here. Arachnoman, it's just here's the okay. Arachnoman makes like WCW look low rent because it's a shitty like off-color Spider-Man costume. It's the kind of thing that Jerry would do in Memphis all the time. You know, Ninja Turtles and shit like that. I think they did try Ninja Turtles like once in WWE on like a dark match, but like it's just you're gonna get sued. It's not gonna work. And Spider-Man wasn't even that popular at this time when they did this. It wasn't a movie or anything, or even the animated series. So that was a little weird that they went with him when you know you had Batman in '89. That would have made more sense. But the Anonymous GM is unwatchable. It's because it led to Michael Cole talking more, which is never good. And it was always right. You hear that sound, the do-do-do, and then
the only time I've seen Michael Cole genuinely happy was when they brought the Anonymous GM back, and Michael Cole smiled because he could just feel the crowd repelling against it, and that's how he would always for another 200 years.
And then he would always go, and I quote, right? It was
he loved it. He loved fucking with me.
He would read so slowly. I mean, this was so bad. And it was also like Adam Pearce is better. Like nothing, which is Adam Pearce, nothing is better than the Anonymous GM. So a guy with no humanity at all is
nothing is worse, you mean?
Laptop.
Yeah.
What's that?
Nothing is worse than the Anonymous GM.
Yes. No. Oh yeah. No, what I'm saying is that Adam Pearce is nothing, and that's still better than the Anonymous GM.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Robert, or is it just going to be a clean sweep?
Arachnoman. And I will.
Really?
Here's why. So first of all, Mike brought up a lot of the points I was going to about Arachnoman, which is it looked so rinky-dink and terrible, and was clearly going to get you sued when they were like, well, it's like a Jim Herd thing of, well, what the fuck do kids like? I don't know. They read comic books. We'll just send a guy out there dressed like a comic book. And it makes the product look stupid. And Brad Armstrong's a really talented wrestler who just wasn't great at talking. And they made him like the Candy Man and all this stuff. And it's a special level of dumb that you're spending TV time on something that you know eventually Marvel's going to stop this, when Marvel had sued the WWF over Hulk Hogan. And there were all those issues with the intellectual property rights over Hulk. The Anonymous GM garnered heat from the audience when a lot of other stuff didn't. And more importantly, it took away from a production end having to do backstage GM roles and establishing a general manager. It was very tough to find a consistent GM that was going to be used on TV that you could rely on week after week, who was going to be compelling. And worst of all, you'd have to film all of these backstage pre-tapes, and sometimes you'd wind up spending your entire day it was Bischoff's office or Teddy Long's office, having to film 5 or 6 of these where the wrestlers come in and they have a conversation and they leave. The anonymous GM was just a quick, stupid little fix for the writers of just, all right, they're going to send a note. Michael Cole is going to stand up there and read this. And Michael Cole was playing a heel when in reality, Michael Cole was playing Michael Cole. The shit-eating grin, the evil fucking guy you want to punch in the face is Michael Cole. The guy he plays now as the news reporter guy is a character that Michael Cole plays. So he was relishing being that heel. The end I quote got heel heat, and it was a quick way to just move something along over the course of a segment without having to film a backstage pre-tape. So from that perspective, you were solving a problem that they clearly wanted to get rid of because they couldn't find a sufficient GM. They did the year of celebrity GMs, which some of those were a hell of a lot worse than this. This was just an easy, all right, we need to move this one step forward. Who's going to, as the anonymous GM?
Robert's answer is why robots are going to take over.
Yes.
For anyone who says that Robert is a WWE apologist, you're right. Robert, here's the only problem with your logic. It was not quick. It could have been a quick way to move things, but it took so fucking long.
Yeah, it did, but you didn't have to do a backstage pre-tape. And from a production standpoint, not having to film something and then get it approved by Vince, who's going to find some stupid nitpicky thing and make you reshoot it 5 fucking times because it's a 45-second segment of, all right, Chris Masters, tonight you have a match. It's just so much easier to just have Cole read it off a screen. It's the only reason why I'm justifying it. Did it suck? Yes. Arachnaman sucked more because it was never going to go anywhere. They wasted time on it. They wasted money on a costume. And, from an intellectual property standpoint, fuck WCW.
We have
Robert
is like someone pitching to Vince, like, hey, kids nowadays love being on the laptop. And he's like, we got to get a fucking laptop.
Oh, no. That's the other thing is Vince hates emails. So that's it's like a Vince thing. It's like, oh, there's nothing worse than having to write or read an email. Right. And I'm sure there was like, yeah, like he's terrible. Any email he ever sent was like 5 or 6 words because he would poke type because he doesn't know how to type on a computer, and hated if you ever sent him an email. We had to fax things to him because he'd rather have something faxed than read an email.
That's all.
I still love that you said that you think they spent money on the Arachnaman costume.
I want
They didn't.
I want to do a Patreon episode that's just Robert and a therapist explaining to Robert that he actually hates WWE.
Yeah, it's like, no, Raw hurt you, Robert.
He did not enjoy his time there.
It was
He's
dope.
traumatized.
It was so dope being there.
Oh.
Yeah, can we, Robert? You need a Dr. Melfi that you can just admit all of your problems.
Well, no, you need a therapist. Which was a better role for Scorpio Sky than what he's doing now. He was more convincing.
You see, Robert doesn't like this truth, so he's going to fucking
taking the AEW shot
right to the AEW heart of Scott Chaplin. He's trying to get
going
the heat
to war
off himself.
for Raw.
He's good.
I would watch Robert and Dr. Shelby go over the abuses that they shared together.
Oh,
Goodwill Carpolis, it's not your fault.
And honestly, the only reason I can be positive about it was I spent 8 seasons in the NHL, which is like compared to that, WWE is a fucking cakewalk. But that's a different podcast. That's when we do our Sopranos and hockey podcast.
Robert, Dark Side of Tampa, Carpolis.
I'm not in Tampa, but thanks.
Oh, that's right.
Coming next year from ad-free shows. Go puck yourself. Hey, Robert Carpolis hockey podcast.
It's just me and then Conrad labored breathing.
You
Here you guys play the Bruins of Boston. That's a terrible Conrad. I don't really care.
You and the Goon would be a good podcast. I'd listen to that.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, I think so.
I think
hopefully.
so. Yeah,
that's my bright side. The Goon is still alive.
He became the original Mystico. I'm just joking. That's not true. All right, let's get to contemporary wrestling. We have a lot of shows to cover, so instead of doing it like hour by hour, I'm just going to go around for the people that watch the show, something they liked about it, something they didn't like. A little high spot and low spot, but for each show. SmackDown. Robert, something you like, something you didn't like about it.
I loved Street Profits and the Usos. I thought that was a really fun street fight. There was an amazing frog splash spot where Montez Ford adjusted in midair like Rob Van Dam style, but didn't fully kill one of the Usos when he did it. My low spot was the weird, convoluted Naomi, Sonya Deville, Shayna Baszler quasi match thing that they did. I don't know
What are
anybody
they doing
that's
with that?
captivated by it. Like, I don't know who's super excited for that storyline.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with that.
Hey,
Scott,
man,
did you see the show?
What, SmackDown? I saw pieces of SmackDown. I saw the Reigns Lesnar thing. What did Balor fight Zayn? Right, I saw that. It was a good show. It was a solid show. The women's match was good. Yeah,
I would say for me, for sure, the high spot of SmackDown was Becky and Sasha. It was such a great match, and then the segment right afterwards too was awesome. With Lesnar and Heyman. Now, I guess, the story is that the bunny beat them in the demo or something. I don't know. They're just
18-49.
There's a few, but which is kind of crazy because those two segments were legitimately better than anything.
Dan, did you know there was a Madcap Moss segment on this show?
Well, I know.
How was that not the high spot for you?
Well, that's our other Patreon exclusive. Dan St. Germain is mad about Madcap. It's just me talking Madcap Moss every week. My low spot was this note, which does not hold up now, which is they definitely figured out Baszler starting to book her well. And then she then promptly loses to Doudrop on Monday Night Raw. And
because Doudrop fell asleep on top of her.
that is literally the storyline.
She was trapped under a couch like that episode of Friends.
That would be my
Hey, wait,
lowest.
is it now? Did Shayna lose because? Well, is Doudrop a lesbian?
What?
What?
Well, no, because I'm asking this because Shayna is murdering everybody.
Yes.
And I heard that, and maybe I'm wrong, that Shayna lost because they didn't want her to go to Saudi Arabia because she's a lesbian.
They've had
Shayna's come out as being no, she's I don't think she's a lesbian. I know she's part of the LGBTQ plus community. I got all the letters there. Yeah. So yeah, I think that there is probably something to that. It was just the unfortunate way in which she lost, which was choking out Doudrop and then Doudrop basically passing out on top of her and Shayna unable to move like she was trapped under a beanbag.
That's, interestingly enough, Robert, that's how every picnic ends with me.
Also, I feel like that's a nightmare Vince wakes up from.
Man, Mike, could you imagine Vince McMahon trying to enjoy a picnic? Like he would just be so
no,
he would just be furious the whole time. What do we do here? What? Yeah. We just want to eat on the fucking floor. We just fucking eat like peasants. Where's my?
I think we'll get into it. Oh, never mind. Go ahead.
Do ants love steak wraps?
They do.
They'll get stuck in all the ketchup he pours on it.
Well, let's move away from SmackDown and go on to Rampage, which I'm going to include the buy-in show for Rampage because that's my high spot. Because like, what other high spot is there? Which is Daniel Bryan versus Suzuki. Phenomenal free match. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I do think I actually like Becky Sasha better, which everyone else would disagree with me on that. And as far as low spots, I'm trying to look at anything that, I mean, there, I guess that the Cody, I mean, I kind of like what's going on with Cody and Arn, but you don't really have a low spot for Rampage. I don't know. How about you, Robert? Do you see the show?
I did. I didn't see the buy-in, so I can't. I enjoyed Punk and Seidel. I like watching those guys wrestle. I've seen them wrestle before.
Nothing I hated on the show.
They were fun. I could have lived without Ruby Riott having to beat Bunny with a backslide. I don't know why we're protecting the Bunny over Ruby Riott at this point. I feel like she could have probably won stronger. And also Dan Lambert spoke on this show, so that's always going to be a low spot.
Scott.
Yeah, high spot's probably gonna be Punk versus Seidel. I thought it was great. I'm actually really digging
That was your high spot over Bryan and Suzuki?
Oh, well, okay. If we're including the buy-in, fuck no. Yeah, Bryan Suzuki was madness, man. Oh, I loved it so much. I watched it twice. Yeah.
He's just such a great wrestler. Daniel Bryan.
Unbelievable. And this was
just
like
crazy, man. He can wrestle whatever
the
style.
Suzuki that New Japan fans are used to, because
this was he wrestled a Suzuki match. Suzuki did not wrestle a Bryan Danielson match.
Dude, you think John Moxley sucks? Like, is that what it is?
No, I just think that I actually think he's a lot like The Rock in that, like, certain opponents expose his style.
Okay, yeah.
But no, he's had too many good matches for him to suck.
I don't think you can criticize that Moxley Suzuki match. Like, I don't think you can criticize the workers. They had like fucking 6 minutes.
Sure. Okay, that is a great point. But it's just, the bite, they're always like fake biting each other, and Moxley's punches aren't that solid. But yeah, anyway. I also thought the inner circle match was really good. People, like, the crowd was excited as hell for it. Yeah, I enjoyed everything on the show. Anybody else?
Mike, did you go?
I didn't watch. I have zero interest in watching Punk and Seidel in 2021. I don't know why it's happening. And I want Punk in a storyline. And until that happens, I'm going to say that every week. So
it's part of the storyline, man.
That there isn't one?
It's the anti-storyline.
He's building up his arsenal. Each match, he's adding older moves, newer moves. He's at Punk. He's advancing. He's continuously getting better. That's part of it.
Who missed CM Punk matches? I missed CM Punk promos.
No,
I was confused. I realized that Cody Arn thing was actually on Dynamite, not Rampage.
Yeah, that was on Dynamite. Yeah.
My bad.
That was brutal, though.
All right, let's get to Dynamite. High spot, low spot. Mike.
Dynamite. I will say high spot. I mean, the Cody Arn stuff is so bad that it's fun and it's memorable. And I have terrible taste, as Scott has said before. And I know it's bad. It's just, I can't believe it's happening. And that this is your main guy that you have a reality show with also, and all of that. It's just, the whole thing is so weird. And that they announced, I think, Malachi and Cody for next week, part 3. It's weird when there's a third match when one guy's like decisively lost the first 2.
Yeah, it's a little bizarre. I mean, nobody's looking forward to that match. People may like this segment or not.
No, I disagree. I think it's interesting because you actually don't know what's going to happen this time. You're like, well, he literally got his ass beat the last 2 times. So is he losing this time? Probably. And where does the story go there? I think that's kind of cool.
And then I'll say my high spot. Oh, that was my high spot. My low spot would be Punk giving away what was happening in that Lucha Brothers match with FTR, where he's like, yeah, that's definitely FTR. Like, they did that, a week ago with the MJF and the beatdown. It's like, that's definitely MJF. It's like, okay, but like, just let it happen. Sometimes, like, I thought it was, because it's a funny storyline, especially like, and I know we've seen this before with the Conquistadors and stuff, but the idea of like FTR doing it just adds a layer of hilarity to it.
Yeah, the idea of FTR as AAA tag champs is hilarious.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, can we talk about FTR, man? They've now won belts: Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW, and AAA.
Yeah, and Impact when they run out of money.
That match was hard for me to enjoy initially because there's just confusion of why is Andrade like why are they working with Andrade?
Yeah.
But I loved the backstage thing where the payoff between MJF and Andrade. I thought that was awesome. And looking back at it that way, I really enjoyed the match. Punk maybe shouldn't have blown it, but part of me thinks that's intentional, and Tony reacting the way he did might have made it not seem as intentional. Because again, like the other week when they jumped him, it's like maybe this is part of their thing. It's obviously them. What are these assholes doing? It's
is Malachi
kind
a
of
heel
like
or
we're not going to
face?
mock our audience.
Yes.
That's part of what they're trying to do. And so they take like a trope and they go, "This is stupid." It's like we're all in on it. It's for like smart marks or something.
Is Malachi a heel or a face?
Yes.
He's a total face.
Robert said yes.
Yeah, he's both, man. He's a tweener, dude.
He's a tweener, bro.
It's shades of gray.
Yeah,
I mean,
come on.
but it's like the Lesnar thing, right? Like, even if you're like a bad guy, if you go out there and you like put on like dominant performances and shit, you'll eventually just get over.
Always, yeah.
My low spot, my high spot, I should say, for Dynamite was the Adam Hangman Page promo. I thought it was great. He's still he's a little awkward, but needs to get a little more comfortable. But he found it in the promo, like towards the end. He made me really believe. And my low spot is like sometimes, like I think JR gets yelled at for like burying some stuff, so then he goes like way overboard, like to try to make like, because he described the Danielson fish fight as, he wrote, feels like a Tyson fight in here, and I'm like, this is dumb. Don't say that. Like that's not what the feeling is here. The feeling here is this is going to be a fun match. It's not a Tyson fight. But I'm glad that I guess we get Dynamite again. We get Dynamite.
I
this
still gotta
Saturday,
get my Dynamite.
and then next Wednesday. No, I'm just wondering. Do we get Dynamite? We
Yeah,
have one
this
more Saturday, and then
next
Wednesday, and then we go back to Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
Thank God. Robert, what are your high spot, low spot?
My high spots, I had two. First was I thought the Hangman promo was really good because in the fact that he was coming across as natural as the way he was talking about it and was trying to lay everything out. And I like that he brought up the beginning of creating AEW. Like everything was logical in what he said, and it built to an emotional crescendo. And the audience took the ride with him. They weren't chanting to try to get themselves over. They weren't restless. They were hanging on what he was saying. So even if it wasn't the most polished promo, it was, in my opinion, some of the best babyface work I've seen him do. My minor one that I loved was during the Fish Bryan match. Punk calls him Daniel Bryan and then turns to Jim Ross and says, "See, it's not just you." Which I just love him burying Jim Ross for being just fucking brutal. My low spots, first, and this is just me being a mark and I don't care. I hated what happened to Yuta, that he just got crushed so quickly by Moxley, just because I'm a big fan of Wheeler Yuta. I get the story you're telling. It just was, it was rough because JR's building on. It was like, oh, Yuta's getting really good. Well, he was really good. Now he just got his ass kicked. And then the weird thing for me at the end was they announced the tournament, and I don't understand why Dustin Rhodes is in this tournament. What has he done in the past?
Hey, he beat Nick Camarado, and
that's all I remember. He wrestled Nick Camarado, and he wrestled like, it just still really arbitrary and weird.
For years.
Well, I saw him beat QT Marshall in Newark.
That never happened. That was a fake. That was fake. But like, you have a ranking system for a reason, and then you're just like, oh yeah, and Dustin and 10 from the Dark Order. It just was kind of like, if you're gonna have records and you're gonna have a ranking and you're gonna do a tournament, use your rankings. Don't overcomplicate this. Other than it felt like Brian probably said, I want to have a match with Dustin.
I mean, that's probably what it was.
It's probably what it was, but it's just kind of weird for a title tournament.
What was I going to ask? God damn it! You were just mentioning Brian. All right, somebody say something. I
yes.
What is Wheeler Yuta?
What is Wheeler?
He has a really cool coat.
I love the Wheeler Yuta thing because Moxley was such a damn heel, man. Storming out of there, like without letting the fans pat his back, like just getting away from everybody so quickly after
Well, that's the story that
Well, yeah, his
telling,
gimmick
right?
is I keep getting put in meaningless matches every week, and I just want to get them over with.
So
no,
good.
they're telling a
And
story.
Part of it
I
too,
know,
though, is he
relax,
is
I get it.
frustrated with the bullshit. That's part of
Yes.
it. You know, he says that. Yeah, he says that in his promos.
Yes, he just doesn't want to go home to his wife and kid.
Yeah.
Okay. Follow-up question. Why is Wheeler Yuta?
All right.
Because Danny Garcia was unavailable, Mike.
Well, wait. Okay, so my high spot was definitely the Hangman promo. Obviously, that ruled. I did like FTR winning the AAA titles. Dante Martin, Malachi Black ruled hard. The thing they're doing with Leo Rush, like, and Dante clearly not wanting to be his partner, but Leo stepping in rules. It turns out this whole episode is my high spot.
A women's match at 9:30. What are the odds?
Wait, guys. What's more in character? Scott loving a whole AEW show or Robert defending the anonymous GM? Who is more on brand this week? You decide.
Can I push myself in for the on brand Olympics, because I just realized the thing that I had forgot and short circuited on just now. What I was is, I don't know, but what I was about to say was, I literally was about to say, is it just me or do you guys miss QT?
I desperately miss
That's
QT.
What made my head short circuit. It's like my head wouldn't let me say those words.
It was upon seeing Brock Anderson's acting in a pre-taped vignette that they could have reshot.
Oh, can we talk about the Scared Straight episode that Cody was in? Arn brought him.
Us of you to show up.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They're all just hazing Cody in this weird, like, Animal House fraternity.
Oh, it's so bad.
And that you heard like the ringing, like it was the ringing in his ears after he got hit. Like it went like weird, very artsy.
I don't know what's going to happen with this guy, man. I mean, I think that what's going to happen is they're going to make him a heel, and then eventually he's just going to go back to WWE, right?
He swore he would never be a heel, and you can always trust a Rhodes.
I mean, let's just be amazed at the same like time that like Ric Flair's getting canceled, Arn Anderson's coming out as the fun one.
And Ole Anderson is still the most miserable. Ole's still in a Waffle House smoking a cigarette in an area you're not allowed to smoke cigarettes.
Dude, I think he's so miserable that even the dark side guys are like, we're not touching this.
Yeah, we're not gonna touch this. All right, let's get to the crown jewel. I'm not gonna give you my notes because if you're a Patreon member, you can get my entire review. But Robert, you may have seen it, and Scott, you saw it. What were your high spot and low spots of the show, Scott?
Ooh, high spot. Man, I love the whole show. This is tough. Hell in a Cell will be my high spot, even though it was the first match, and I kind of want to say Goldberg's performance was my high spot.
Yeah, but, Goldberg was really funny in a weird.
Dude, the match ruled, man.
It was actually a really well put together match and the spot with Seth and Edge where Seth like bounced off the side of the cage and went through the table was great.
Yeah, man. Dude, I thought literally the entire show was great. I do not think I have a low spot for it.
Robert?
Just a moral one for watching.
But yeah, I think the high spot was just seeing that Xavier Woods won King of the Ring. I know how legitimately important that was to him, and I'm glad that the WWE didn't do what they always do, which is just fuck with a guy when they know he wants something. So that was great. And then my low spot is this immoral, just morally complicated, disgusting show is the first show they've done all year that apparently was fantastic from top to bottom. And they do SummerSlam, and SummerSlam was a slog. And it seems like every single part of Crown Jewel over-delivered, which means they know how to do it, guys. They're just not doing it for you because they don't give a fuck about your Peacock money. They only care when they get paid $60 million to fly over and do a show that actually matters. I can't wait till we cover Survivor Series with Big E and Roman Reigns.
Well, Actually, Survivor Series is them all trying to get back on the plane.
Yeah, they haven't flown home yet, which means Braun Breaker is on standby to main event SmackDown tomorrow night.
Cut to us getting $30 a week from the Saudi government, and next week we're like, "Hey, WrestleRoasts brought to you by Crown Jewel."
Yes, sometimes women can drive a car.
I'll just never. I'll just say that I'm amazed that I'm happy they finally put on a good show there, because that was the thing, was like those shows often sucked, where it's like I feel shitty for watching this and it's not a good show. The fact that they learned to put on a good show, like I'm guessing like the prince paid up, and because like it's right like the last few of those, like you just hear they're awful or someone almost dies or some sad shit. And Scott and Dan, you both told me like this was a great show, and I'm like, well, yeah, that it should be $60 million.
Yeah, well, they have the antidote for Hunter's heart, so they needed to deliver, or else it's all over.
Well, if that was the case, Vince would be like,
well, Nick Khan would have been like, "Yeah, fuck him."
Everything ends in a DQ.
Vince would have been like, "Fuck him."
I heard the original script sucked, but then Vince saw Pitbull last night and said, "We got to top this," and made something really special.
How is the Undertaker in Saudi Arabia and not on this show?
Because he was introducing Pitbull. It was different money.
You couldn't have stayed an extra couple hours.
I love that. Oh, you know what? Here's my low spot of the show. So during the pre-show, they announced that the Lesnar-Reigns match was going to be no DQ now, right? And then like 20 minutes later, they were like, Lesnar and Reigns don't want to abide by that new ruling, though. And then, which means like they realized that if it was no DQ, they couldn't do that finish. So we all knew how it was going to end, but we knew that anyway. But again, it was a great show, and that's a very nitpicky.
And a pretty good finish for that match.
Yeah, man, dude, Lesnar looks like in the best shape he's looked in forever.
He looks like an actual comic book character.
Dude,
Also, yes.
Just one of the greatest ever on appearance alone. What a fucking freak.
Scott stealing my gimmick for pointing out the most nitpicky thing that would have ruined the show, where had I seen that would have absolutely pissed me off.
Yeah, man, bad.
Well, let's check in with the Twitterverse. Mike, what was the question you asked people this week?
I was just going to say, Robert, there were no mouthy journalists today, which is why you didn't see an Undertaker.
Well, they didn't. Apparently they confirmed that the remains are Brian Laundrie. So, Crown Jewel strikes again.
Wait, you mean Saudi hero Brian Laundrie? Okay, the Twitter question this week: what's the scariest wrestling-related costume you could wear for Halloween? At O'Deary, dressed as DX, dressed as the Nation of Domination. At Scott Ferry, the fully grown anal baby of Heidenreich and Michael Cole. At Movie Guy, I guess, Coco Beware's flame-broiled parrot. At Bertland 19, one of the numerous skeletons in Jimmy Snuka's closet. At Adam the Hawk, Cody Rhodes' tattoo artist. At Promographic Ken, Scott Chaplin in an I Heart Roman Reigns shirt. At Hunter 1504, Tony Khan wearing a Nick Khan mask. So a boy dressed as a man. At A Santos 3421, a bowling shirt, a balding head, and a dull personality. I call it the QT Sorta Marshall. At Bootsy and Badger, Road Rage Arn Anderson. At 655321 King, a union representative. I'd wear it to go trick-or-treating at WWE Stanford headquarters. At Heller, a duffel bag filled with Randy Orton's poop. At TNADCT1, the ratings for AEW programming from the point of view of Vince McMahon. And finally, at Hackney McVapid, Dusty Rhodes' weird stomach blotch.
That actually is terrifying.
So Grimace from McDonald's.
Leave the Grimace alone, baby.
Let's keep on you, Mike. What was your high spot and low spot of the week? You can do both.
All right. My high spot of the week was Undertaker announcing Pitbull in Saudi Arabia. It's just so funny. It's just the most silly thing. I mean, I've watched it. I've shared it. I've laughed. I've loved. What a wonderful
I still have to watch it.
What a bizarre moment. Mr. Worldwide, Mr. 305. Yeah, I mean, we are reviewing the Undertaker Escape the Undertaker and a New Day thing. So it's just the post wrestling career of the Undertaker has been amazing. That he's finally willing to do the job, any job, now that he's no longer wrestling. And then my low spot would be the tweeting of both Tony Khan and Roman Reigns, like on both sides.
I think it was an interview with Roman, right?
Yeah, it was an interview with Roman, and just the back and forth. Like Tony Khan's Twitter is really sad, where he was like, "I'm not Ted Turner, and if and Ted Turner is not as good as me because I'm still running a wrestling company and he's not." It's like just put on a good show, like and the whole thing of Roman besmirching AEW. Like, I know that we as fans need conflict, and especially when it's manufactured, and we love that kind of stuff, and it's fun. It's sad when the grown-ups are doing it. It's like the guy in charge of the company should just. This is why Nick Khan is better than Tony Khan, because Nick Khan doesn't tweet.
Robert, what's your high spot, low spot of the week?
So I'll do my low spot first. I was basically what Mike was going to say, which was Tony Khan tweeting, especially when there was someone who was talking about the ratings and he wrote to him, "Look, dog," which tells you everything you need to know about what I've always thought about Tony Khan, that he makes all of us seem really well adjusted. This fucking kid needs to go play in the street or something like that.
I'm trying to get our friend of the show, Benji Afalo, to do a Tony Khan impression. They look exactly alike.
Dude, he spelled dog D-O-G.
He spelled it D-O-G.
Oh, no.
This fucking kid. And then my high spot is MJF talking about all of this stuff, and they asked him about Roman Reigns and him trying to in character be diplomatic by pointing out, "Hey, I may be in WWE someday." Because he's the smartest fucking person.
Yeah, I've never
wrestling.
seen him be less searing about someone.
And it was so good.
That? He was just like, I respect the guy, but
it's like Roman will pretend to not know who I am, but he knows who I am. But at the same time, I may wind up in WWE, so I'm gonna. It's like he's like Dan on this show. Like, I'm not gonna totally bury WWE because Vince may call someday and be like, "We want you to write Raw."
Hey Dan, can you and those dogs come down? We need some good shit, pal.
What about I'd take 205 Live at this point. All right.
That's my low spot now.
What's your high spot?
That was the saddest thing I've heard all week.
Scott, what's your high spot, low spot this week?
Cool. Okay, so I do have a high spot that's from the G1 that I will talk about more on the Patreon. But Shibata returned for a 5-minute exhibition match with Zack Sabre Jr. and he's a wrestler who was injured in 2017. Blah 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 blah. You'll hear that on the Patreon. I have another high spot that I think is fun to tell on the podcast. So AEW this week, they released these sweater and a shirt saying that they joined forces with Susan G. Komen, right? The organization. And then people reposted a tweet that CM Punk made in 2017 where he said, if you're going to give money to a company that claims to raise money for finding a cure for cancer, please do some research. Komen is a scam, right? And again, this resurfaced, and AEW had just teamed up with Komen. So now, during the podcast, Shop AEW just posted a tweet that said, hold on, October is breast cancer awareness. Wait, let me get the right one. Oh, AEW teams with Breast Cancer Research Foundation. So they dropped G. Komen
in a medical facility.
Punk retweeted it with a heart, which means that Tony Khan, did the Susan G. Komen thing, found out about what Punk said, dropped them, and joined another organization that is not as shady. How
Put
fucking
Susan
cool
G.
is that?
Komen through the barbershop window.
Yeah, how cool is that? That's my high spot. My low spot is from the G1 that I will talk about more on our Patreon. But in the main event of the G1 final, Kota Ibushi got hurt and they had to stop the match. And Okada won. And it's a real injury. And man, awful year for
It's
him.
real. That
Awful
sucks.
year for New Japan. That bummed me out. And I watched it live. So definitely listen to the Patreon because I'm going to go in depth about how I was up at 6 a.m. at work while watching Japanese wrestling.
My high spot is Japanese wrestling related. I will be reviewing New Japan with Scott, but Buddy Matthews is going to be in New Japan. Buddy Murphy, we brought up Buddy Murphy early in the podcast. I'm a big fan of him. I was kind of nervous that he was going to either get like kind of swallowed up in AEW or can be completely lost in Impact. But him in Japan, I think it's a great fit. I think it's good for both him and the company. So hopefully, that I think you should stay there, man. And also Becky and Sasha on SmackDown, I thought were great. Low spot. I had to drive a lot this week, so I needed to listen to something in the car.
No.
I got the Observer again, but just
God damn it.
No, you relapsed.
No, just for a month. I'm going to cancel it again. I just needed to.
I can quit any time.
I just needed to know. I was about to review the G1, and I've only seen 3 matches before.
No wonder Christopher is your favorite Sopranos character.
I feel like his favorite Sopranos character should be that guy David, played by Robert Patrick. I'm good for it, man. That dude is so sad.
Yeah, he was great in that. He was great in that show. The opposite of T-1000.
Robert Patrick, who's now going to be starring in the Peacemaker TV show with John Cena.
Yeah, him as Cena's dad. It's funny because knowing the real John Cena Senior, it's like anyone playing Cena's dad is doing less of a caricature.
Well, it's even better because he was the villain in 12 rounds.
Oh, that's wow.
Cena's dad is such a heel that when Edge brought up he's like, I beat up Cena's dad. He's got a huge cheer in the
I would like to read just a small section of the Susan G. Komen controversy page on Wikipedia, if I can.
Sure.
In 2007, the organization changed its name to Susan G. Komen for the Cure and trademarked the running ribbon as part of its branding strategy. Komen has come under fire for legal action against other organizations using the phrase "for the cure" in their names. An August 2010 Wall Street Journal article detailed a case in which Komen told the organization Unite Against Lung Cancer to no longer use the name Kites for the Cure for its annual fundraising event. Komen also wrote to the organization to warn it against any use of pink in conjunction with Cure. More than 100 small charities have received legal opposition from Komen for use of the words "for the cure" in their names. Among the offending organizations, Par for the Cure, Surfing for a Cure, Cupcakes for a Cure, and Mush for the Cure.
More like Susan B. Trippin'. Am I right, guys? Susan B. Trippin'?
A charity that sues other charities. The fuck?
Is, of course, a charity that would work with WWE.
Yeah, take out all those territorial charities, pal.
Yeah, it didn't say if they won any of the cases, and if they lost, then it definitely explains why they work with WWE.
All right, folks.
Wait, real quick, the high spot, Mike, you need to look this up because I saw this stuff. They did a Be a Star rally in Saudi Arabia. There is nothing funnier you will see than that.
Yeah. I was nervous that like Titus wasn't going to be allowed to say breast. I was like, hopefully he's not hopefully he's not thrown in a fucking jail for that. All right, folks. That was our episode. We got a fun one next week. Roasted Kane, which also means the bright side of Kane. For Show and Hell, we're going to do Shane McMahon's nuts being electrocuted, which I have only seen once. I have seen, but it'll be interesting to watch it. For We Must Hate Ourselves World Cup, our gimmicks that we're looking at, our gimmicks that we're looking at next week. Orlando Sexual Predator Jordan, that was his TNA Impact gimmick, where he used to lower to the ring in a fuck swing. This is true. Versus Friar Ferguson. And if you know anything about the order, way kinkier than Orlando Jordan. Dynamite or Dud, high spot, low spot. Patreon, we're doing Escape the Undertaker next week. Then the roasted Nick Gage. And you're going to get me and Scott's New Japan review and mine, Crown Jewel, and Something to Sports. You're going to get to hear me and Robert's take on Halloween Havoc next week. Subscribe to the pod. Leave 5 stars. Oh, my dogs are about to start barking. So, Mike, what are your credits? I mean, what should we do? Check it out. Yeah.
What should we
call to action?
Mike Lawrence Comedy on Instagram. And contribute to the Facebook page, the Wrestle Roast Facebook page. A lot of fun. Robert?
You can follow me on Twitter at WWCreative_ISH and buy one of our shirts. And if you take a picture of yourself wearing it, one of us will give you a call. I spoke to Dan Young all the way over in the UK. And we went up talking for about 45 minutes about various wrestling stuff. And it was a fucking blast. So that's always fun. So go on our Pro Wrestling Tees store, pick up a shirt, and you get to talk with one of us. And it's I mean, you won't hear Dan's dogs necessarily, but it's still fun.
Buy 3 shirts and you could talk to Dan's dogs. Scott.
Scott_Chaplin on Instagram and Twitter. That's it.
All right, folks. We'll see you next week.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.